This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
What up? No, it is the last fucking show of 2021, and then it's gonna be 2022. And man, long overdue, but we got new merch, we got fights to talk about, we got all kinds of stuff to talk about. As you join the stream, you know the drill. Drop in the comments where you're coming from. Tell us, let us know that you're watching. And yeah, if you haven't already done so, shoot me a DM if you want one of these shirts. You know, looking out here crispy, thanks to our homies at Face Kicked Apparel and our friend, the beautiful Miss Lindsay Snow, who is talented enough to give me this badass tattoo, which was the inspiration for this. And hey, that nice light up sign that you see behind me, you know, like I said, we've been waiting a little bit on these shirts, but I'm glad that we have them in here. Like I said, get you one over there. Shoot me a DM if you want one. $20 small through XL, 25 for the big boys. Like I said, as you join, drop in the comments. All right, before we get to the MMA stuff, like I said, tomorrow is New Year's Eve. What the fuck are you guys doing?
It's a damn good question. It all depends on who ends up all arriving, I guess you should say. It's going to be a very, very small crowd of people, mostly of which are young people who are going to be enjoying some lovely sparkling juice for the festivities. I don't know if you guys remember those days growing up, but that was always a highlight of my New Year's Eve, so I got to pass that tradition on. But other than that, man, I'm going to enjoy the night with the kiddos for the most part. Have a couple people over, but mostly kids. What about you guys?
See, he's got it right here. He says he's watching me
whoop
that ass. That's what I'm talking about.
That's my
Big
dog,
Blue
man.
gonna
That's
whoop
my homie,
George's
Wig.
ass. AJ Styles, they don't want none.
They don't want none.
J-Bone, what the fuck you doing for New Year's?
Hey, man, I'm just going to be kicking it, staying the hell out of the crazy people's way. That's what I'm doing. Keeping my ass home. Staying out of these crazy people's way, man. That's all I know.
What? So you don't gotta replay a cheapy creepy like we did for Halloween? I mean, dog, we had a good damn time.
Hey, we saved that for once a year, man. Don't worry, I already got our tickets for next year, so we're all set to go. So.
That's what I'm talking about. See, and I've already got my tickets and got our tickets for the GCW show that's on its way here to Detroit at Harpo's. And like I was talking about in Tuesday's episode, where we talked about our favorite moments of pro wrestling, our favorite pro wrestling interviews from the show. We linked up with past guest Darren McCarty, who a little birdie tells me he might be doing something at Harpo's as well. So I don't know about you, but I'm ready for Harpo's. Jay, you know, we were talking about it, man. We got the new merch out, the new shirts out. You got to let me know, man. You're getting you a shirt. You got to be out here looking crispy and repping the team out here. You know, Ed's out here got it on his license plate. Get you one today. Shout out Lindsay Snow. But before we get to these MMA, you know, these MMA picks and these thoughts and all that stuff, dude, there was some news that went down in the pro wrestling end of things as well, dude. I mean, I was reading that Tony Storm. I mean, oh my God, Tony Storm is one of my favorites for obvious reasons. Yeah. But Tony Storm is gone from WWE, and I'm honestly surprised because all jokes aside, Tony Storm is very good. She was very good before she ever got to WWE, and she's still so young. Then she comes in, wins the NXT UK title. They shoot her right up the way at NXT and then put her on SmackDown. And literally the night that she left, apparently, they're saying that she wrestled in a triple threat match for the title in the main event on a live event. So, J-Bone, what are your thoughts on the release of Tony Storm? And for everybody else joining the stream, let us know where you're watching from. And again, like I said, them new shirts are out. Let me know if you want one.
Man, so she's got to know something we don't know, obviously. For obvious reasons, she left under her own will. There wasn't a release, as far as we know, right? She took it upon herself, even after
she asked for her release.
even after a main event match. Now that obviously that's the biggest thing you can have is a main event match, house show or not, and then that same night you dip out and ask for your release. Something's up. I don't know what it is, but it's almost becoming like a trend now. Like people are like they're dropping like flies over WWE for whatever reason it is. Who knows, man?
Now, one thing I have noticed, right, when situations like this arise is people don't necessarily make their statements right away. I don't know if that's like something in their clause, like a clause in the contract where they can't actually issue a statement about it publicly for 2 weeks or a month or whatever the case be. But it seems like a lot of these releases kind of go quietly because the wrestlers themselves aren't necessarily able to comment on it. It seems like so. Has there been any type of public post or anything like that on her side?
Not that I've seen
anything. No.
I haven't
So
seen
what it
anything.
is, I think a lot of it, what that has to do with, you got to remember, they're on like normally like a 30-day non-compete or a 90-day no-compete. So I think they don't say anything a lot of times in that because they're still getting paid. But like I said, in her case, I've heard a lot of it has to do with like mental health and things. So I'm gonna wait to reserve my judgment until we see what Tony Storm comes out. What up, though, Kathy? I see you in the comments. I got both one of our new shirts and one of our old shirts on the way to Nokomis, Florida, coming to you tomorrow when I go swing the mail and slave myself away for another $1. That's why, like I said, I need you guys to send in your dollars so that this show can keep running on its own. But with that being said, Kathy saw our post at those social medias that you see on the bottom right-hand corner, where I said that I wanted people's picks for the best moments in MMA, and Kathy came through, as Kathy usually always does. So let's look at Kathy's picks for 2021. All right, let me call those up. All right, here we go. She said her male fighter of the year. She says Kamaru Usman is her fighter of the year for 2021. Female fighter, Thug Rose, hands down. Favorite fight of the year, Chandler versus Gaethje. I agree with you 100% on that one. Submission of the year, Charles Oliveira versus Poirier, because Dustin had given it his all, but still to stretch him out like that, that's where she went for submission of the year. Knockout of the year, got to be Usman versus Masvidal. Prospect, it's a tie with Kenny the Boss Cross and other fellow past guests of the show, Austin Bashi. And then 22 fight of the year that she wants to see, all of them, but she said she strongly doesn't want to see Cowboy versus Patty because she feels like Patty's just going to beat him up.
I could see that. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I could unfortunately see that as well. But the whole thing with that is Cowboy definitely has some chance in if they do end up matching that fight up, because he's shown in fights where you expect him to get his ass kicked, he always shows up and overperforms. It's the ones where you're like, oh, he's on the rise, this is his real chance, where he kind of doesn't. So also Patty took a couple solid shots from somebody far less superior as Cowboy Cerrone is. So I feel like that would still be a very interesting matchup, especially for only his second fight in the UFC. So,
all right. So I don't know that I necessarily see Cowboy getting torn up, but I also don't think that his chin is going to be able to kind of hold up to Patty's power at this point.
Even coming off of this long of a layoff, we've never seen Cowboy take a significant layoff.
Okay, his chin might take a little bit more, but the thing is, man, he's fought so many times at this point. It's like the same thing like we talk about all the time with wrestlers and their bump card, dude. I mean, you can only take so many shots, and he took a few months off. We're not talking about a guy like Mike Tyson who, comes out and, comes back after however many years it was. Cowboy's had a few months off. Plus, he's still got to be training for this fight, so he's got to be taking shots and sparring too.
Oh yeah, it's never like he's not getting beat up in there too. You know what I mean? He's a guy that walks through those punches, man.
And so I mean, even if you figure he's not really sparring much for this fight camp, right? He's still got to spar at some point. And a guy like Cowboy, I just find it hard to believe that he's not really, taking shots like that. So other than the opinion with Patty and that, what are your thoughts on Kathy's picks? And everybody that's joining, like I said, we're talking top moments of MMA, boxing, combat sports in 2021. Feel free to throw your picks in the comments. We'll show them on the screen and let us know where your picks line up with what we got here in a second.
Well, to answer with Kathy's picks, I feel as though she did a great job, and that's where I'm going to have to isolate some of my picks with like who it should be and who it is, I guess you could say, and then like my secondary pick, because it seems like for the most part, a lot of these awards have kind of been unanimous across the boards from just looking at every MMA panel, every MMA board. It kind of seems to be a consistent path throughout them all. She's definitely not wrong on any of her picks, that's for sure. It's just there's so many different options, and I feel like a lot of great fights are getting left in the woodworks, and that's not on Kathy's picks. That's just on MMA picks in general this year.
Well, there's so many fights throughout the year.
Yeah, I know.
I think this is the longest stretch we've had, right? It's like 2 weeks with no UFC, no MMA.
So
until what, January 15th or something like that?
Yeah, once it's all said and done, it'll be a 4-week break, a full month.
Oh.
And it's like, man, the last time we had this was when COVID was still going on. My neck's over here itching. I probably got red marks and shit. I'm over here itching for fights, but
hey, the wives and the girlfriends though are having the best 4 weeks of their life right now. No MMA on the TV. They're like, yes.
They got everything that goes into production and everything. It's not even so much just the athletes, really. It's the production team that's going year round. Even if they have 2 separate crews, I mean, that's 1 week on, 1 week off. And it's with everything that the UFC puts into their shows, man, you got to give these guys some time off once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, let's get into our picks for the 2021 year. And to all those that keep hating in the comments, hey, bro, there's millions of other channels, so get a life. But with that being said,
haters, get them out of here.
You already know what it is.
Get them out of here.
Like I say. Anyways, for me, like I said, I'm getting through the list here. Get me everything set up here. Oh, and we also saw that Mercedes Martinez that got let go, even though she was in the Impact Women's Battle Royal, is now debuted on AEW. So AEW is doing a little more to strengthen up that women's division, which when we were there before, or I should say I was there before it all out a couple years ago, she was the Joker in the Casino Battle Royal and then ended up in NXT. Now she is over there with AEW. Hopefully, I think her experience could really help out with AEW. I've always been a big fan of Mercedes. I don't know about you, J-Bone, but I think they just got another headhunter over there at AEW.
Oh, yeah. Dude, putting her on your roster only going to make your roster better, especially in that women's division, man. It's starting to get deep over there. So look out for that women's division. That's on the rise, man. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Corey.
It's just crazy with all the inner working. It seems like the wrestling world's just ever revolving right now, more than ever. It really does. Like the doors are just forever swinging. It truly is a revolving door right now.
I love it.
That's why I was thinking after our show on Tuesday, man, which if you guys didn't get to check our top picks for 2021 in the world of pro wrestling, those are there if you hit that subscribe button. But something I was thinking about is a category we should have had, which if you guys were watching that show, feel free to throw it in the comments what your picks are. But what was the biggest jump from brand to brand? What was the most impactful jump? Should have been a category that we came up with. I didn't think about it till afterwards. So if you guys think of one and want to throw it in the comments, feel free to do that. But I don't know. I mean, I guess it's as good a place as any to start, since that's where we started Tuesday's show. Male Fighter of the Year. I'll start this one first. For me, it was kind of hard to go anywhere else. To me, Male Fighter of the Year has to be Charles Oliveira. I mean, I don't really see any other way you can go. This guy got better in every fight he had and then dominated Dustin Poirier like that. He took a few shots, but to finish him out like that when everybody was counting him out at 45 and now to be the undisputed king at arguably maybe the toughest weight class in all of MMA. For me, Charles Oliveira has to be fighter of the year for me. For me, this is really a no-brainer. What are your guys' picks on this one?
He was a very close second in my book, just due to the fact that they didn't get him a third fight throughout the year. If he would have been a little bit more active this year, I would have been able to name him.
But I don't think that's his fault when he's a champ, though. And they got to figure they had an interim title too. You got to remember that.
Not this last time they didn't have a. He's been since he's
no, never mind. He was already undisputed. You're right.
Yeah. But
he also had to wait out the Conor bullshit.
He had to wait out the Conor bullshit and all of that. But with that being said, I have to agree with Kathy on this one. I feel as though the clear one would be Kamaru Usman, really. He solidified himself as the clear number one pound for pound fighter in the world right now, which is truly a feat when you had the likes of John Jones and everybody reigning at the top for so long. And for him to clearly take that number one role from it, it's really impressive in my book. The way he did it too, like she had noted with the knockout, which could very much be noted knockout of the year of him versus Masvidal. He struggled with some adversity in that Burns fight just to come out of it and put on an incredible performance and end up winning the next 2 rounds until he got the finish. He went in there against Colby and looked amazing. Colby put on a hell of a fight, so that was a 2-sided war in my opinion, but Kamaru was the clear winner at the end, in my opinion. And so with that being said, 3 solid title fights throughout the year, it's hard to pick against them, man. It really is.
And
in my book.
Honestly, the more you lay it out, like I said, I mean, that's what's tough about doing these year-end shows is because of the recency bias and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with picking Kamaru Usman either, because Kamaru Usman is pretty much at this point where he's cleared out the 170 division.
Yep.
So, I mean, I definitely can see that. And I honestly, the more you said it, I'm like, shit, should I have picked Usman? But the thing is, at the same time, Oliveira's only a couple wins away from doing that already too, because he beat Chandler, which was like the guy on the outside. Then he beats Poirier, which was essentially the quote unquote uncrowned champ. So now if they run this Gaethje fight, which looks to be the next fight, if he beats Justin Gaethje,
unless Charles Oliveira gets his way in that whole Conor McGregor call out, which I hope doesn't.
I don't think that's so much of a thing where like Charles doesn't want to fight him or anything. I think it's more of a case of like,
money,
I mean, let's face it, it's a money fight. But
it may even be easy pickings for him too. You know what I mean?
He's the Well, you say that, except the one thing that you can say in his 2 fights that have made him a solidified champion now is both of them he suffered a knockdown. And with somebody like Conor McGregor, can you suffer a knockdown from him and still show that heart to get back up?
Tell us some of your picks for
it only takes one punch, man. Only one punch.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen what he did to Aldo. You've seen what he did to
oh my God! With that fucking
Alvarez, you've seen Chad Mendez. You've seen like all these fights. That's the thing McGregor does is he one hits you. And
could you imagine the ego flash he would have if he came back and did that?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't want to see it, is because I feel as though it is still a winnable fight for
don't get me wrong,
McGregor, but
I used to love him. I mean, I still do love him, but shit, dude. Like,
but in my opinion, you cannot lose 2 fights in a row and come back to
and I don't think Dana's
and realistically,
gonna let that
if I'm not mistaken, that's 3 because Dustin was his return fight from Khabib, wasn't it? Or is my time mistaken?
No. Cerrone was the return fight.
No, I thought Cerrone was before Khabib, wasn't it? No, I think you're right. I think
Cerrone was right after
Khabib. Yeah.
Right after Khabib, and then
Yeah, and then we had to wait the year because Conor was fucking Conor and fucked off for. Yeah,
right.
You're right.
Hey, we appreciate you, Chris. Thanks for dropping by. Happy New Year, homie.
Happy New Year, my dude.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right, J-Bone, who is your fighter of the year?
Well, Corey made this actually very easy for me. He's laid it all out for me. So you go 3-0 in title fights, man. It's hard to argue the way that Usman pretty much dominated that division. Like you said, the division is clear for him. There's nobody really there. And it was never like he was in any danger. You know what I mean? Like, I think there was one point in one of the fights where it was just like, oh, maybe, but and it was just like, nah, he just dominated. So pound for pound king in my book in MMA right now, it's hard to argue with that. So Usman wins my fighter of the year.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not mad at that at all. For me, it was just like
it got even more piled on as he explained it all.
I mean, I felt like that too. And like I said, a lot of recency bias with this stuff. But
I weighed a lot activity in that, and because realistically, another one that I had really high on my list, but I did not ultimately put up there because of inactivity. But this one, I feel as though even more so was not his fault, but was Glover Teixeira. He's being forgot about in everybody's list. And I mean, you're talking about a workhorse that has been around the division forever that nobody expected at this point in his career was going to put on the performance he did against Jan Blachowicz in that just dominant title winning bout. I mean, it truly was impressive.
Well, let's not act like for those that really know what time it is, dude, Glover has always been very, very good. Yeah. Like, for those that know what time it is, Glover has been.
But if I would have asked you 5 years ago, or when he fought John Jones and then lost 2 or 3 fights, and then was kind of riding his way throughout the lower ends of the top 10. If I would have asked you then in 5 more years, when he's now 42, is he going to hold gold at that point? It would be like, no, man, there's no way.
I disagree, because I've been rocking with Glover since long before Glover ever got in the UFC. I've been rocking with Glover since he was on the Tap Out show. I've always known what Glover was capable of doing because of the guys he was training with, like the Iceman Chuck Liddell when Chuck was the champion and things. And I think a lot more respect needs to be put on Glover's name, simply for the fact that a lot of the reason why Glover isn't a bigger name here in the States is because he had a hard time with visa issues getting in from Brazil. Yeah. Had he been able to be over here and compete all the time, I think his name would be a lot more noticed with American fans. So that's something that needs to be taken into account too. So no, I disagree with you, because I still would have said that there's a chance he can win purely just for the experience that he has, even if other people aren't aware of Glover's experience. But we named our male fighter of the year. We got to let the ladies have their shine as well. J-Bone, who was the female fighter of the year?
My pick, I'm going with Kathy on this one. Thug Rose, man. She had a hell of a year. And honestly, we'll get more into this later on, but that win over, how do you say her name?
Weili Zhang.
Zhang. The kick, the first fight, beautiful, dude. Beautiful. Probably one of the most perfectly placed head kick you could imagine. It was set up perfect, it was placed perfect. And then for her to come back and dominate again, keep that title, man. She had a hell of a year. And I think she's going to do great things in 2022 as well. So we might be talking about her same time next year, if you ask me.
All right, Corey, who was female fighter of the year?
So this one, it really is like a 1-1 and a 1-2. Like both of them are winning gold in my opinion, and that's Valentina and that's Rose. Rose is my number one, realistically, though, if I'm going to like put a stamp on it, because like you say, that second performance, the first one to me was great. Don't get me wrong. I always love a solid knockout, especially in a title fight. It's like, okay, that kind of solidifies what happened, right? Well, no, because they decided to do a rematch, which I was all for once it was actually announced. And then for her to go in there and showcase that she was the better fighter over 5 rounds the way she did, it was just, it was truly impressive. There's no way you can knock anything away from her. And Valentina is really up there on the list just because of Valentina.
Because she's fucking Valentina Shevchenko. That's
she's like, you can put realistically, I feel like just about
that one's all a matter of preference and how you value what they did in a lot of ways.
Well, I feel like, not to interrupt, but I feel like why Rose is higher on my list in that opinion is because of the value of the competition level that she faced.
I agree 100%.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I really do feel like Weili is a very, very skilled fighter. She showcased that in the Joanna fight. She showcased that in the Andrade
dude,
fight.
Weili is up there for sure.
Wasn't she on like a big time win streak at the time too? Like 19 fights or something like that.
she was 21-1, if I'm not mistaken, and
Okay.
her 1 was her first fight in her career.
Ah, wow.
So it was
The hell of a
like,
feat,
yeah,
man.
it was something like that. It was, I might be mistaken on the exact number, but it was only 1 loss, and it was her first fight. So yeah, it was a streak for sure. Yeah.
All right, so for me, like I said, Valentina Shevchenko has got to be up there on anybody's list if you're being realistic. I'm not by any means shitting on Valentina Shevchenko, but for me, Thug Rose has to be the clear winner for me for the fact of the toughness of the fights, number one, and number two, the mindset change in that second fight. She was decisively better than Whaley in that one. Now, that's not to say excuse me. That's not to say that Whaley didn't have her moments, but you could see Rose was timing things. You could see she had a game plan. When she got her takedown, she was timing her takedowns, but she was also mixing it in with her striking and everything else. I feel like Rose is on a different level right now. Obviously, Valentina is doing her thing as well, but I mean, purely for the toughness of the fights and things like that, I think that's kind of what has to be the deciding factor for me. So for me, Thug Rose is going to be my winner for this one. Before we get into the next category and all that kind of stuff, I want you guys to throw out in the comments, if you guys watch us for the MMA or combat sports side of things, let me know some of your favorite interviews in the comments, anybody that you want me to bring back for next year. I posed the same question to you gentlemen as well. Who are some of the people that are stick out on the combat sports end of things in 2021?
Well, first off, before I forget my point, honorable mention Juliana Pena. She deserves to be on that list just for what she was able to do to the lioness herself. But
definitely.
That being said, realistically, there's quite a few that were great this year when it comes to MMA interviews. So if anybody that we've had on, please don't take this offensively, but the one that stood out to me was the Guitar Hero himself, man. When he was talking about placing that money and everything that went into it, and how it was a riveting interview, man. It really was.
I just spoke to him earlier today. Like I said, the Guitar Hero is getting ready to step back into the cage in 2022, February 5th, Lansing, Michigan. You know, a little birdie told me that a special guest might be at that fight too. So I'm really looking forward to February, because not only is the Guitar Hero stepping back into the cage, Mondo El Toro Gutierrez is stepping back in the cage for TWC as well, in Lansing as well. So yeah, it's going to be pretty dope come February 5th, 2022. Hey, for everybody joining the stream, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like button, share button, all that stuff. Throw out your favorite picks, favorite fighter, favorite moment, all that kind of stuff. If you have any favorite interviews of the year, that's what we're talking about right now. So, J-Bone, what were some of your favorite interviews from 2022?
Well, consider I've only been here, how long I've been here now? I don't know. How long have I been doing the show now?
About a month, roughly.
A month or two, maybe, something like that.
But you've been rocking with us for a minute off and on, though.
Oh yeah. But for the short time I've been here, man, Kenny Cross was my favorite one. I think he's it was cool to see him, talk with us, man, and be right here in Michigan, fighting and stuff. I got to watch it on Fox Sports 2 or something like that.
Fox Sports 2.
Yeah, so that was dope, man. I got into that a lot. So shout out to him, man. I'd like to talk to him again. Good dude.
I'm sure Kenny Cross will find his way back to a knockouts and 3 count screen. I mean, hell, at the last fight, his brother jumped on the hood of my Jeep telling me he wanted me to bring on Kenny Cross again in 2022.
I'm glad that you refreshed my memory by bringing that up. I just want to say that shit was wild as fuck. It was pouring fucking rain out. It was dark as fuck. There was a goddamn million cars in this parking lot. And somehow he noticed it was us.
That's when you guys were at the fight?
Yeah.
While we're at the fight, he comes up, literally jumps on the hood of Kyle's brand new Jeep. Like, you guys better get my brother back on.
Shit.
We
And
plan
his
on
girlfriend
it.
or wife is just like, I'm sorry, we're gonna go this way now. Like,
So
Hey, he was celebrating that night, man.
if this makes its way to Kenny, let him know, man. He's got some family support in his corner.
Hell
dude,
yeah.
And
Kenny's got the crowd in there, dude.
also met his grandfather on the night, and he was very much in support of him as well. So Kenny's
yeah.
Well,
definitely got
Papa
some
Cross
family
was there
behind his
too,
back.
man. Papa Cross is in here every time we're doing MMA stuff. Like I said, man, that's what's good about us here at Knockouts and Three Counts. We're not only bringing you the guys from UFC and Bellator and Ryzen. I mean, literally, if you look down the year in 2021, I've brought you people from XFC who have fought in Ryzen. I've brought you people from the UFC. I've brought you people from Bellator. I've brought you people from the regional scene. I've brought you some of the best MMA journalists in the world. We brought you some of the best bare knuckle in the world. So you never know who's going to be on here, but we will never get away from our roots, and that's also helping put on some of the boys and girls from around us here in Michigan. And I mean, I think very soon, it's not going to be long before Kenny Cross makes his way back to a big stage as well, being that we already saw him take out a 10-0 guy on Dana White's Contender Series. But for me, on the MMA end, on favorite interviews and favorite shows of the year and things like that, Kenny Cross is always up on the list for people that we get to do stuff with. But for me, and maybe this one's a little bit more personal, because again, for those of you who don't know, I've been around the MMA game a little bit. Darren Cruikshank was one of my favorite interviews of the year, because I've known Darren since I was 14 years old. So to see him step back in the cage, get to kick it with him a little bit at the fight and after weigh-ins and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, Darren is an OG for Michigan's MMA and stuff like that. Like I said, when I started training, him and Miles and Justin James and my coach, Big Don Richard, literally like all James Lee. I mean, pretty much everybody that was around Michigan at one time, you had a lot of them were in the same training room. So it was cool to finally get Darren on here when we've been talking about having Darren on for quite a while. I mean, obviously one of the ones from, like I said, Kathy said it best. She says Darren's her number one dude, said that Darren's who got her into MMA. Bobby Nash is always a good time. Like I said, you never know who we're going to have in here. And I want to throw out to you guys the same as we do on the wrestling end. Shout out to Donald Holland, who's always looking out, showing support, stuff like that. If there's anybody on the MMA, boxing, combat sports end of things that you guys want to see me bring on this show, tweet them, because I ain't scared. I will hit them up if you want them to come on here. Like I said, let me know who it is you want to be on here, and tweet them and let them know you want them to come on here. And I will do the best I can to make sure that I can bring them to the screen. Like I said, thanks for all you guys that are joining the stream. Make sure you hit that like button and comment button. What do you got, Corey?
I'm so glad you brought up Bobby. That one completely slipped through my head. You could tell he was just all focused going into his fight, man. That one was another one that was really high on my list, and I'm glad that you had brought that one up. And I can't wait to have another chat with him here in the future.
Well, I'm sure we'll be chatting with Bobby Nash when he gets ready for his XFC title fight. And shout out to his brother Randy, who is always showing love at them social media handles that are down there in that bottom right-hand corner, which if you haven't already done so, make sure you throw that out of there. Chris coming in the comments, speaking of wrestling, where do you see WWE and AEW in the foreseeable future? Corey, I'll let you finish your point, and I guess me and J-Bone will tackle that one in a second.
And another interview that I feel as though has really slipped through the cracks is one, you brought up Michigan and all the work that's being done in Michigan. Michigan's own Clarissa Shields out here giving out presents, out here making Christmas for a lot of families. I feel as though if you guys haven't made your way to go check out that interview, it's not a full-fledged podcast interview like we normally bring you. It was just like a 5 or 10 minute video, but it's well worth the watch. See what she's the GOAT of women's boxing is out here doing in her hometown to try to improve life for all of us out here. Really.
Hell yeah. Shout out to past guest of the show, AB out of New York, who hooked us up with the champ, Clarissa Shields. She couldn't have been more accommodating. It was good to get to talk with her a little bit. She is stepping back into the ring in the UK, in London, in England, to go try to conquer another mountain in boxing. Hopefully we can get the champ on here again. Like I said, throw it out on social media that you want to see the champ on Knockouts and 3 Counts. Hopefully I will be able to make that happen. Alex coming in the comments. See, there you go. I like the Marty Bell interview. She's wonderful. She's a sweetheart. Now, I am not mad at that at all. And she corrected me on my grammar because I accidentally missaid Alex Gracia's name. I said it was Alex Garcia. Excuse me. I'm sorry because, man, when we got the sponsor Mission Pro Wrestling, we found out quick and in a hurry that Alex Gracia is nothing to be fucked with. Neither is Marty Bell, as she is one half of your NWA Tag Team Champions with Michigan's own Pinkies Up, the other part of the Hex, Allison K. So hopefully we can bring AK on the show in 2022. I'm definitely excited to see where she goes as well. All right. So we talked about male fighter of the year. We talked about female fighter of the year. We threw out Kathy's picks. Let's see what else we got here on the docket. The next one I've got on here, fight of the year. If you guys are just joining, what are your favorite fights of the year? But I will take this one first since I'm flapping my gums already. For me, this one's a very simple answer. This one has no recency bias on it for me. Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler was a fucking banger. I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of fights you like. If you didn't enjoy Michael Chandler versus Justin Gaethje, I don't know how the hell you call yourself a fight fan. Like I said, for me, Gaethje versus Chandler, hands down, was fight of the year for me on that one.
I mean,
it's hard to argue that, man. It's hard to argue that.
Yeah, it really is.
Hard.
And that one was so good that a serious number 2 contender for fight of the year in Billy Q versus Shane Burgos happened immediately following it. And it was almost to a silent house because the fans were so still worked up from that Gaethje fight. So, like, it's really hard to argue that one. It truly is. I feel as though that's number 1, and it should be. And it's kind of clear, yet again, like I preferenced going into this list, that seems to be kind of unanimous across the board with a lot of people, is this, the picks are kind of all leading in the same direction. But another fight that I feel as though it gets brought up a lot, clearly, because he's still the champion. But Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler, man, while that lasted, that was a fucking war. That was a great fight, and with the
definitely
stakes,
a great fight for sure.
Yeah, with the stakes and everything that went into it, there was honestly so many this year that you can't go wrong with so many. But it just seems like if you're gonna give out a gold medal, it's got to be that fight, especially being a 3-round fight, and
it kicked off the card. Remember, it was the first fight of the card.
Yeah, very valid point. It's like. It's wild, man. The fight game is fucking wild. And like you say, I don't even think this was one's necessarily recency bias, even though it happened a month ago. But there's just, other than that, maybe Rose versus Whaley too. That was a really solid fight, and that really showcased Rose's skills. But there's so many other ones that it's just, that's the clear number 1 at least. What about you?
For me, man, I mean, I gotta agree with you guys, man. It's hard to even get away from that. You know what I mean? That, just considering where it was placed on the card, it was an opening fight. It was just such a banger of a fight. You're never gonna forget that kind of fight. But the very close second for me was Ortega versus
dude.
That was a great fight, man. I just feel like it was. I mean, it could have, if it was later. I feel like, I don't know. There's so many factors, right, in the fight game. There's just so many things, but like. You got the whole 3-round fight, because it was my top 2, right? So I got the 3-round fight versus 5-round fight. It's like, 3-round fight. There's more into the 3-round fight. it's hard to follow a fight like that. How can you? You know what I mean? And it wasn't even a title fight. So
yes, sir. Florida loving this bitch
hard, man.
between Kathy and Alex.
Hell yeah. Florida going
that's just one of those
wild
fights
right
that
now.
I had to dig in and like see. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that fight. Fuck, you know,
Another fight that really slips through a lot of people's cracks, I feel like, was Max Holloway versus Yair Rodriguez.
That was definitely on there, man. I feel like even though that was a good fight, though, I just feel like Gaethje versus Chandler just put that stamp.
Banger.
Yeah.
There was not. I felt like after I
dude.
saw that fight, I definitively was like, "Son of a bitch." That's it. Like,
yeah,
that's it for me. All right, now top 5 fights of the year. Like I said, if you guys got picks on these ones, I'd love to hear what some of your favorites were in the comments. Kathy, we've already talked about yours, but feel free to throw out any opinions on anything that we've got. Now, I always have a hard time when they're like top 5 lists and things, so I don't know that I've got exactly 5 on there. So I will go over the ones that I got, but Corey, feel free to list yours out. Just go over the ones you got on the list because we got a few other categories we got on here.
So if you're talking events of the year, right? That's what you're bringing up.
Top 5 fights.
Yeah.
Like single fights or like
single fights. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, single fights. Well, I just listed a bunch of them in my fight of the year. You know, it's realistically you could say those were my top 3. Is, you know, you got Volkanovski's versus Ortega, rightfully should be somewhere near the top of that list. That was absolutely an insane fight. I really there was so fucking many, man. It's like the fight game this year was truly wild. I don't even know where to begin. I would
forget a lot more than you remember. That's for sure because there's so many. Like,
and once I started to do my due diligence to do any research, it was like I almost dug myself deeper in a hole of lost memories of all these fights that had happened. I mean, it was wild of a year. But
and this is why, that's why I say, like, when I brought up in past shows, like, for me, like, although I love seeing fights every weekend, that's why I liked when we had, like, you know, the one UFC pay-per-view in a month, because you knew, okay, this is what we're getting, and you would have that build where, like, now it's so easy to forget that. Not that I'm saying as a consumer I don't enjoy there being more fights. It just, again, that's why when you do a list like this, it makes it, you know, hard not to have recency bias. Alex coming in the comments throwing out one of his picks for the year. Yuri Prochazka versus Reyes is his fight of the year. That's not a bad pick at all, dude.
No, not even a little bit. That one's actually should be very high on everybody's list. And yet again, it goes kind of to a recency bias thing because that was in the early months of the year. A lot of people forgot about that one.
I'm not going to lie. I forgot about that one until he said that.
Yeah. And I mean, shout out Dominic Reyes. I've been a big fan for a while, even before he fought John Jones and all that. And to see him coming off the loss and then lose in the title fight again to Jan Blachowicz, and to come into that fight and pour his everything that he possibly could into that fight to try to win, and it's just come up a little bit short. He ended up getting hit with that nasty elbow that put him down. I mean, but
nasty elbow.
You couldn't take anything away from Dominic Reyes in that fight. He gave it his fucking all. He was hurt multiple times and just got up and kept trying. So, I mean, that one really should be high on everybody's list. He's not wrong for sure.
I'm not mad at it, and keep them coming. Like I say, if anything that we come out here with kind of sparks some picks on this, you know, feel free to throw them out. J-Bone, who do you got for your picks for 2021, bro?
So this is just opinion based, man. This is just for me. I mean, it may not be, you know, what everybody else thinks, but it's just for me. So I got Gaethje Chandler. That's obviously got to be up there. Volkanovski, Ortega. There was, what was that? Peter Yan versus Sandhagen.
Yep.
I thought that was a great fight. Too. Great fight. And then they go all the way back in the beginning of the year. Francis Ngannou and Stipe. Dude, for that fight, I remember the build up for that fight. I was so into that fight, dude. I was in Tennessee. I remember we had to stream it in other ways, but we had to have that fight on TV. We couldn't order it because of the location we were at. We couldn't order it. It was not even available. So we had.
You didn't have ESPN Plus?
It was not available. There's no internet where we were at.
So you
Loud in Tennessee. Population like, I don't know, 2,600 or something like that.
Well, we were in different spots in Tennessee because I had a hell of a time in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee was the shit.
Yeah. So that's 4. Brandon,
and I won a
Moreno.
3-point competition after drinking some alcohol. We were at the Moonshine Factory. Let me tell you, if you've been to Nashville, Tennessee, you need to check out the Old Smoky Mountain Moonshine Distillery. It's a good time. Go ahead.
My last fight on the list was Brandon Moreno versus Figuero earlier.
That was a fucking banger, dude.
Yeah.
Great fight. One that I forgot about, man. I mean, what they have 2 fights, right?
Yeah.
And dude, Moreno could very likely have submission of the year, bro. Mm-hmm. Like the way that he dominated Figuero like that in the second fight.
Huge. That was huge.
I thought he won the first fight, and then they do the immediate rematch after the draw, which was the way it should have been. Either way, no matter who won that fight, it was so evenly matched. I feel as though a rematch was perfectly.
Aren't they running it back a third time?
Yeah. Now we're gonna see it back a third time, and I feel as though the thing is with this.
I think Moreno's got the momentum already. Already, honestly.
Yeah. I'm really curious what version of Davison Figueiredo goes in there. I'm a huge fan of Moreno. I'm in Moreno's corner, but I bring this up because he's looked like he struggled more and more and more every time to make weight. And he has to make 125 on the dot for championship weight. And I feel as though in the last fight it was almost off because he had to take that extra hour and still was like right on, like had to use the curtain, everything. So it's like it might not happen is all I'm saying. It might not
huge wear and tear on your body, man, especially in a championship fight, dude.
And he's so much, like when you've seen them standing next to each other in the cage, you can see the substantial size difference, like the thighs, the chest, everything about him is just that 1 or 2 sizes even thicker, where he's just, that much meatier. And it's like, how are you cutting that much weight when you're literally all muscle and skin already? Like there's nothing else to give.
Let me tell you, dude, from a guy that used to fight at 125, even when I was younger, making 125 is a son of a bitch. J-Bone, throw out the rest of your picks on this one. So how many was that? That was
I had Gaethje, Chandler, Volkanovski, Ortega, Ngannou, Stipe, Moreno, and what was the other one? Hold on, I got it written down. We'll type down 1 second. Oh, Sandhagen versus Jan.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's your 5. All right, man. I can't argue with those picks at all. Like I said, if you guys got any other different picks or fights that you think that we missed, throw them out in the comments. For me, again, like I said, I feel like a lot of these fights are going to be something where it ends up being where we all pick something similar. But for me, Gaethje versus Chandler, Volkanovski versus Ortega, Colby versus Usman was one for me. And I put Max versus Yair versus my last one. Like I said, dude, and like I said, Jan versus Sandhagen could have very well been in there. There were so many bangers. Like I said, again, with so many fights, it's, again, it's hard for there not to be a little bit of recency bias. But this next one, I feel like everybody has got to have a favorite in them. But this one, I would imagine, is going to be an even harder topic for us to cover as far as just picking one. But the next one is knockout of the year. And for me, I'm going to dig back a little bit. And to me, this has got to do with the magnitude of what he did, the difference in his game plan and what he was able to do in this fight versus the last time they fought, and who he did it over. Ngannou versus Stipe is my knockout of the year. It has to be, because that was monumental, even though the UFC keeps playing games with this interim title bullshit and all the other stuff. Francis Ngannou came out there and looked like a motherfucking savage, dude.
Mhm.
Straight up. Came out and looked like a savage. Stopped Stipe from taking him down, and we've never really seen Stipe get beat up that bad.
Yeah, and didn't
Not
just
like
stop the takedown.
Not like
straight
dominated.
stuffed
He
him.
just
Stuffed it all.
Yeah, stuffed him. Like it was a whole different ball game for sure.
Like I said, so for me, that's why because of the way he did it and who he did it over, and over a guy who's widely considered, the greatest heavyweight in the UFC. Like I said, for me, Ngannou versus Stipe is knockout of the year. Whichever one of you gentlemen wants to take this next, go ahead.
Lead the way, J-Mo.
For me, man, can I pick 4? Damn it.
Hell no.
There's so many, man.
Hell no. I'm already tired and I got to sort some orders, which if you guys didn't do so and you guys got here late in the show, make sure you get you a motherfucking t-shirt. Get you a t-shirt. Shoot me a DM. Let me know in the comments what size you want. The design from the beautiful Miss Kaiju Power herself, the American Kaiju, Lindsay Snow. Like I said, if you guys want a shirt, throw us a DM. But who is your pick for knockout of the year?
So I know we got all our obvious ones, right? There's a bunch of obvious ones, but I haven't seen this one at the top of anybody's list yet, but it was the flying knee from Sanhagen on Frankie Edgar. Put him out cold, dude. So it just flashed, just like that.
It was cold-blooded, for sure.
Dude, it may not be like on the magnitude of the heavyweight fights and the title fights and all that, but dude, out of nowhere, it's just one of those out of nowhere flash knockouts, dude, and he's just stiffened him. And a guy like Frankie Edgar, man, we all know he don't go down very easy, but that one just put him out. So that's not.
That was one of them moments he probably woke up seeing Craig's daddy.
Yeah,
and I actually seen one list up, and I believe it was a poll, to be honest with you. But Frankie Edgar was included in 2 of those on the losing end. It was him versus Marlon Vera as well, when he got turned into a Smurf for a moment.
Yeah. See, that's what I forgot about already. How did I forget about that?
Yeah, that was an interesting photo. I feel as though the knockout was great. Don't get me wrong, a front kick knockout, but it was more so the photo that solidified that one. But realistically, I feel as though, Kyle, you kind of are really in the right direction with this one. You got to weigh title shots into this. And for that reason, I agree with Kathy and pick Kamaru Usman versus Masvidal. To knock out Masvidal like that, man, that's wild. Nobody knocks out Masvidal. Nobody does. He hasn't been knocked out in his whole damn career, if I'm not mistaken. So
nasty knockout too.
Yeah, and it was the type of punch where you literally see all the sweat leave his face at once. Like, that shit was solid. So with just solid cross to win knockout of the year, it's got to be. But if you're going flashy and if you're going like traditional, like who
we said knockout of the year. You said you think knockout of the year is that one. That's what you think knockout of the year.
I was just gonna say, if you're going flashiness, yeah, I agree with you, J-Bone. Sandhagen's got to have it with that flying knee.
All right. Well, we've gotten through knockout of the year. We're talking prospect of the year in 2022. Kathy says she sees the prospect of 2022 being either Kenny the Boss Cross or Austin Bashy, who, hell, pretty much everybody that stepped in the cage with Austin Bashy so far has gotten mauled. So I don't know who wants to smoke with Austin Bashy, but I'm telling you, I don't think it would be very long before a Bellator or a UFC comes a knocking for Austin Bashy. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to want any smoke with him. And if you didn't already get to do so, make sure you check out that interview with Austin Bashy, because he doesn't do that many of them. You hear it here. Like Kathy said, 5-0. Like I said, Austin Bashy is a savage inside that XFC cage, and I think he's destined to see some success in a little bit higher up in a little bit. So for me, prospect of the year, I think Islam Makhachev is going to have a really big year next year. I really do. I was going to say Kazmat, but I feel like Kazmat's already pretty much there. Like, he's already pretty much on the tip of everybody's tongue for
that hype train is rolling. That hype train is rolling.
Yeah,
for him,
dude. The
man.
hype train for Islam is already, or not Islam, for Kazmat is already running, towards him being the next one to fight Usman. And with the lack of challengers left for him at 170, I think it's much more likely that we're going to see Kazmat fight for a title before we see Islam fight in there. And the crazy thing with Makhachev is that guy is fucking mauling people. And I'm the one that said Oliveira was my fighter of the year. I'm fully aware of that, and I'm not stepping away from that pick. But what's wild about Makhachev, and the reason why I make my pick the way I do, is Makhachev might be the guy that can take him down to the ground and beat him on the ground, and is just mauling dudes with the way he's doing things. And like Khabib showed in his last few fights, I mean, dude can land punches on you as well, bro. Like, don't get it twisted. So that's why for me, Islam Makhachev has got to be the clear one. Again, obviously, I know why some might go with Kazmat Chimaev because he hasn't fought for a title or anything like that. But I feel like he's already kind of on that tip to where everybody's already kind of putting him there. That's why for me, I think Makhachev is really going to make his stamp in 2022 and make it known why he should be fighting for a title. If you guys got different picks for prospect of 2022, throw them in the comments.
I mean, I know you're trying to keep it short and sweet on this one, and you're not wrong with that pick. That really is an honorable pick. I agree, but he has some serious tests in front of him in his next.
I agree, but that's why I say I think he can make more of a stamp in 2022 versus a guy like Chimaev, who already has come out this year and pretty much told people that if he's not next in line for a title, he's only about 2 fights away. Where Makhachev, like you said, there's still more big test that he has to, kind of get over before we can put him into that title picture. That's why when we're talking about an overall prospect, I think Makhachev is the way to go with that one, because he still has things to be proven, but he has made enough of a stamp in 2021 that going into 2022, if you had to ask me who's one guy that I think is going to just bust out and really make some noise, I think Makhachev is going to be the one that's going to force you to have no choice.
Yeah. I think a name that's really getting left out, I could go with a couple of the obvious ones. Not obvious because there's so many great prospects, but the Makhachevs, the O'Malleys and stuff. But I'm going to actually lean in another direction to somebody I feel like that doesn't get enough attention, which is Sean Brady. I feel like Sean Brady in the next year is going to seriously be just on the continual rise throughout that 170 division, to the point where I could very well see him contending for a title in the next year, depending on the way the matches play up and if he ends up with any injuries or anything like that. But I feel like Sean Brady isn't on enough people's tongue, like you said. He doesn't get talked about enough for where he's at in his career. A guy coming out of the States who's got an undefeated record and who's shown that he can contend with all these top guys. I feel as though his name needs to be brought in that comment section more.
I'm with you in that. And speaking of comment sections, Alex is helping us out all the way from Orlando, Florida, saying that Shavkat Rakhmonov is his welterweight prospect of the year in 2022. Well, Alex, you got to commit to us that you're going to make sure you keep checking us out in 2022 so we can at least keep in touch and see if your prediction is the one that is correct out of them, because I definitely could see Rakhmonov being a definite contender in 2022. Definitely one of the more quiet names on that list, but definitely somebody that can be on that list. J-Bone, who is your pick for prospect of the year 2022?
Man, this is based on simply entertainment value pretty much in itself, but I'm taking Paddy the Baddy, man. That dude, first of all, he cracks me up with his accent and his crazy little bowl cut thing he's got going on. Don't make fun of the dude because he can scrap, man.
That haircut's wild, man.
If he gets that fight with Cerrone, I think that's going to slingshot him into some conversation in that division. So I think he's going to have a pretty good 2022, man. You got to look out for that guy.
So I think
follow him on
Paddy
Instagram, by the way, because it's very, very entertaining.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. I think Paddy the Baddy's got he's got the potential to definitely be a big contender for that. But I still feel like we got to see what his chin's really going to be able to be tested like too, because he took a lot of shots when he came in there too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's see if his chin can hold up, because it's like, oh shit, Alex coming in with it though. See, that's what I like. He fucks with the wrestling and the combat sports and keeps it coming here in the comments.
Yeah.
All right. Ian Gary versus over Patty Pimblett.
Ian Gary, though, to bring
Ian
up Ian
Gary,
Gary,
yeah.
I do believe he will be a great prospect to watch, but he was another one that got touched in his debut, man. Both of those guys. I mean, Ian Gary, I feel like maybe has more of a physically imposing body style for his division and stuff, so I feel like he may end up being the one that goes further out of the two. But both of them got touched, man, in their debut, and that concerns me, because there's one thing that people from England and from the UK are usually not that great at, and it's their ground game. Patty's shown a little different. He's got a ton of submissions in his game and stuff. But that being said, if they're one thing that they usually are the brightest at, they both kind of showed weaknesses in their debut. I worry about that once they start heading into higher level competition.
All right. Well, all right. We've talked prospect of the year. The next one that we've got on here is fights that I want to see in 2022. The one that jumps to mind for me, I kind of have two of them there. One, kind of, there's still a lot of hoops that has to happen for that to happen, so I'll throw that out as an honorable mention. I want to see Khamzat versus Usman next year. I feel like he's going to be the most. I mean, I think Khamzat maybe needs to get one more win. I could see that, if you have him fight one more before he gets the title shot. But, I mean, realistically, to me, he's really the only real credible challenge left for Usman at this point, because Usman really already solidified that he was better than Colby. And I think most of us would agree that outside of Usman, I mean, Dana White's already said it himself that if Usman wasn't the champion, Colby Covington would be the champion. Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I think Colby Covington was his biggest rival. I think Khamzat is the next guy on the rise with that. So for me, Khamzat versus Usman is the fight that I want to see on the tip of my tongue in 2022. But if we're going into left field a little bit, I want to see this damn Ngannou versus Bones fight. That's what I want to see happen. I want to see if John Jones, with all this shit he's talking amongst all the other stuff that he's got going on, I want to see what he can do in the cage at heavyweight, and I want to see how he stands up to heavyweight power. That also being said, again, I may not like all the guy's antics, but I also want to see what his athleticism can do at heavyweight, because, boy, if he can pull off half of the shit that he did at 205, Ngannou's going to have him some problems with John Jones, just like the boys at 205 did.
Absolutely.
I really don't picture that being the case. I feel as though he was already kind of slowing down at 205 a little bit. That's why a lot of the contenders had started to catch up to him. And not only
but
that,
none of them beat him, though.
Dominic Reyes beat him. That being said, moving up to heavyweight, especially facing Ngannou, somebody who's a natural beast heavyweight, like fully fledged, ripped, like has to cut to make 265, or he's like right at the 260 limit when he comes in super lean. So it's like, that's going to be a really hard fight for somebody who's naturally been a slim guy their whole life. It really is. Whether he takes 2 years to build into his size or whatever the case be. Strickland versus Adesanya will be a very fun fight if that ever takes place, because Strickland will not give Adesanya the space he needs to operate. That would be a very fun fight if it does end up taking place. But I could also see Sean Strickland in trying to charge in and getting clipped on the chin. But that is a very fun fight for the upcoming year. We could definitely see that one. But for fight of the year, who I want to see go against each other, man, there really is so many. And I guess it would really, like, I'm really excited to see that Glover versus Yuri fight. I really honestly am. I'm excited to see if Yuri Prochazka becomes the new king of 205 that we kind of resemble somewhat similar to a John Jones, where he ends up on this long run or something like that. Or if young man Glover can maintain that belt, man. He looked absolutely phenomenal in his last couple fights. I know only real blemish was Anthony Smith touched him up until he got his ass whooped. So it was like, I'm really curious about how that fight plays out. I really honestly am. I know it's not necessarily a dream matchup because we already kind of know it's coming, but that one's the one I'm most curious about going into next year.
All right, J-Bone, what fight are you looking forward to in 2022?
Man, I want to see Khamzat versus Usman too. That's also, I agree with you, man. Like it's almost like I keep going back to this Rocky thing. You got the top guy, and this guy is an up and comer. This guy's dominating everybody. He's walking through everybody, but he's not ranked up there yet. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's like I know in the sport you don't want to jump rankings, but I feel like if it's anybody that can, it's this guy. This guy has shown. I mean, just go look at the stats alone, dude. He's untouchable.
Literally, no one's landed a single punch on
nothing.
Him.
So like, why?
That's wild.
Why you can pose the argument like, yeah, he doesn't deserve to be there yet, but prove him wrong.
I think he's wrong. I personally think, and Dana White's kind of expressed this as well, is that he's 2 fights out. I think he should fight somewhere around the 5 to 8 range, and then he should fight within the top 5, and then we can talk about it. But who would you guys, because both of you guys kind of pointed that as your matchup, who would you like to see the contender him go against to get to that point?
I mean, honestly, like I said, when I mentioned that be the fight, like I said, at this point, you really don't have that many people left at 170 for him to really fight that.
You got. Well, I'm not talking about Masvidal. I'm talking about who should Khamzat fight.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. There's not a ton of people for him to fight. I mean, I think who's the fight? I mean, honestly, I think the best way to silence a lot of the bullshit at 170 would be to have him fight Leon Edwards, honestly. Because Leon Edwards says he's sitting out until he gets a title fight. If I'm the UFC, I wouldn't be shocked if the UFC comes out and says, you beat Khamzat Chimaev, you get the next title shot. Because he says he's content on sitting out for a title shot. We know Dana White doesn't like that. I also could see why Leon Edwards feels he's already done enough for that. And again, I wouldn't be mad at this fight. This fight's not like my fight that I'm like, oh my God, that's the one I want to see, but that's another banger. Alex says Jose Aldo versus Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
I mean, that's another banger of a fight as well.
35 is full of dream matchups right now. 35 is like, it's talked about a ton, so I don't even necessarily want to call it the sleeper division or anything like that anymore, but it really is. It's so much fun.
A fight that would sell huge, I think, would be Khamzat versus Kobe Covington. That would be huge, dude.
I'm not mad at that either. I mean, because
so big,
realistically, man. Even with Colby Covington losing, Colby Covington, if he wins another one, is going to be right back near the title again. But
in my opinion, Colby's the clear number 2 of the division, right? Like he's the one that's put on the most competitive fights against the current champ. That's been a pretty clear reign.
Kayla versus Nunez.
Yep, I'm very excited for that fight. But he brought up Dominic Cruz, and I honestly want to see the not old. I say old as in like veteran. I don't mean it as like an insult. It's not like he's an old man that shouldn't be competing or something, but I want to see the old grizzled vet and Dominic Cruz take on the young up and comer and O'Malley. I really do. I want to see that fight. I feel like it'd be such an interesting mix of striking styles with how Dominic's so light on his feet, sporadic and quick in and out. O'Malley's kind of the modern version of that with like a little more slickness to it instead of so herky-jerky. Which one's going to win? I would be super excited if they announce that fight.
I'd like to see it. Hey, give Corey the Pedencil.
Yeah, man. Give him the motherfucking Pedencil. Give him the Pedencil.
I've been waiting all show to say that, man.
Give him the Pedencil. I tried to give Alex the Pedencil. He says maybe she still goes to the UFC. We're going to have to see where Kayla Harrison ends up, whether it's Bellator or UFC, all that good stuff.
Just because Nunez lost doesn't take anything away from the fact that Nunez versus Kayla Harrison at 45
would be a banger, but I'm just saying she hasn't there hasn't been a decision on where she's going yet. So I'm just saying, where do you see her going? All right. We're running a little short on time. I wanted to give a little bit of love to the bare knuckle side of things. We're not going to be able to go into it as in depth, but as you know, we bring you all of it, whether it's pro wrestling, deathmatch wrestling, boxing, MMA, bare knuckle. We bring it all to you. But we got our bare knuckle breakdown for 2021. Corey, since I know you're nuts deep in bare knuckle, I will let you cover fight of the year. What is your favorite bare knuckle fight of 2021?
I'm not just nuts deep, man. My whole undercarriage is wet at this point. How deep I'm in there. No, but in all seriousness,
You know, there's a bigger thing called a shower, bro, and the water probably stinks less.
BKFC, man, they really put on some bangers throughout the year. I'm really excited to see what they do with Knucklemania going into this next year. They got Chad Mendez now. They've got Mike Perry. They're starting to build up their more recognizable stars, the people that'll get casuals to tune in. I can't wait to see what BKFC brings into the next year. But breakout star got to be Taylor Starling. Got to be. She's my.
I said fight of the year, asshole. You're skipping around.
Well, because like you say, you want to make it short. So she's my clear number one. If you're going fight of the year, though, it's probably Yuli Diaz versus Thiago Elvis. That's got to be my number one. That was for a title. Doesn't get much better than that. Yuli had Thiago hurt at many points. Thiago had Yuli hurt at many points. And Thiago was able to beat him out at the end, man. It was truly an impressive ass fight. It wasn't quite as blood and guts as a lot of the bare knuckle fights end up being. It was more of like I don't want to say strategic as in it wasn't action packed, because it was, but it was a true skilled fight. The gloves, and it was a pleasure to watch.
All right. I agree with you. I think as far as fighter of the year, Taylor Starling definitely made her stamp known in the bare knuckle world. I have said this multiple times. I'm going to put this out into the universe. Again, any of you guys who are watching this, feel free to throw it out on all the social medias. I want the Killer Bee on the show.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like she would vibe real well with us. Let's see. Alex in the comments kind of got turned off from bare knuckle this year with what happened to Justin Thornton. Still needs some cleaning up at 22. I'm glad you said that, because that does bring up something that I've talked about a few times with bare knuckle. Not necessarily towards the fights themselves, but for me, the thing I hope that we can see cleaned up a little bit in 2022. I love the activeness of bare knuckle on social media and with the fighters hyping their own fights and things. But dude, bare knuckle is in danger of dealing with the same thing that we've dealt with in MMA since like the Wild West days of MMA, in that if you keep having all these fights in the crowd, like even, and especially when it's your big name guys like Mike Perry and shit like that, like, look, dude, I'm not saying that I don't like a little bit of chaos. Obviously, we talk about pro wrestling on this world, and that's what pro wrestling thrives off of. But if you're talking about making a combat sport in which MMA already is kind of looked at badly overall when it comes to combat sports, and then when you throw in bare knuckle to it, when you have stuff like that that's happening in the crowds, and you have people jumping in the ring, and then you got guys who are champion who don't want to defend the belt, some of that stuff needs to be cleaned up in 2022. I agree with that 100%, and I also get what you're saying with Justin Thornton, although before I say what I'm going to say, prayers to his family. I would never wish any of that on anybody else. But with that being said, dude, unfortunately, when we're talking about combat sports, it's a sport where you know the risk you're taking. Like, unfortunately, here's a news flash. Guess what? Unlike some of them other hosts who have trained and all that stuff, I ain't scared. I've been knocked out before, and I've been knocked out in a fight before. It ain't fun. I got flash knocked out. I've been choked out. I've had all those kind of things happen. It's nasty, but at the same time, you also kind of know the risk that you're taking, because it doesn't have to necessarily be a nasty shot, as we saw with Justin. You know, a lot of times it's the accumulation of shots, and sometimes it could be you just get caught with one shot. You get caught with one shot that hits you the wrong way, and then maybe your head hits the ground gnarly on the way down.
Well, not to interrupt, but that is what happened with Thornton, is that he got knocked out and he fell onto the canvas, and his neck actually bent into an awkward position. So he suffered a serious neck injury, and he did not. That's one thing I feel as though is not being mentioned enough with this, and I've brought it up on the show a couple times, and I hate to harp on it because, like you say, prayers to the family if for some reason this ever gets heard. I do not mean this in any way by like any disrespect or anything, but it is something that you sign up for, A, and then B, it wasn't like he got knocked out, fell face first, and was dead in the ring and got stretchered out and was gone. No, he dealt with some injuries for a while, was around, if I'm not mistaken, for roughly about a month and a half, 2 months after the fact, caught some type of illness in his body because it was still fighting off the injury, wasn't able to fight off the illness as well. So they were calling it like a combination of things. It wasn't just because he got knocked out. It wasn't just because he fought bare knuckle while he's no longer with us. And I feel as though that may not be brought up enough in that circumstance, especially when you're bashing up and coming company. I'm not saying you're bashing them in the comments or anything like that. I'm just saying like a lot of MMA media and a lot of media in general tried to spin that story as first death in BKFC, and he died at his home. It wasn't like he died, in the ring or something like that. And with a sport like boxing, we literally see multiple deaths every year, and that's a Olympic level sport. So it's unfortunate, and I don't want to take anything away from that, but I feel as though that's something that needs to be brought up in that as well.
Well, I agree with you on that. Like I said, I mean, look, dude, fighting's a nasty sport. I mean, it's the same as like we say with wrestling. Like Corey has said it in the shows that he's been to at this point. I mean, look, dude, say what you want, say what you will, dude, but these people, men and women, take a risk, whether you're getting in the ring, whether you're getting in the cage, whether you're, doing an ICW, NHB, no holds cage pit fight. Donald, if you're there in the comments, I just saw what you shared on Twitter that Michigan's own, the lovable psychopath, Tommy Vendetta is going to be stepping into the pit in Chicago. Maybe February might be the time to bring back, I should say, because Tommy Vendetta is a past guest of the show, another member of the Death Threat Army. Maybe Tommy Vendetta needs to make his singles debut on Knockouts and 3 Counts before he steps foot into the pit in Chicago. So, like I said, if you guys are new here, make sure you hit that like button. Please keep the comments coming because things like that are what help people know about the show. And please share the show with your friends. Like I said, bare knuckle, I'm a big fan of it. Taylor Starling is my fighter of the year. I want to see our homie and past guest of the show, Josh Burns, get his motherfucking heavyweight title shot. Hopefully, whenever that fight gets announced, I will have Josh back on the show to talk about it. I mean, hell, Josh always plans to give us good sound bites. Another show this year that gave us good sound bites was the one with our buddy Darius, the Solo Beast Estelle, which, hell, we were starting fights over in Boston. We're just making friends all over the place in this bitch. That's why you got to make sure you follow us on all them social medias. But, I mean, dude, like I said, we couldn't have ended it any better. You got to get you a Knockouts in 3 Counts shirt, get you one of them new ones to get you ready for the new year 2022. Like I said, Kathy, yours will be in the mail tomorrow. If you guys want one, throw them out in the comments. Let me know in the messages, all that good stuff. Yeah, man, there's a lot of good stuff to talk about there. I'm going to be back on commentary in 2022. Your boy is going to be back behind a microphone. They're giving me a live mic that's not under my own control for Henry Ford Hawks and their college wrestling. So I'm going to be there as well. Hopefully you might see me behind the mic for some pro wrestling and maybe some MMA too. So like I said, you never know where you're going to find Knockouts and 3 Counts, but the biggest way that we grow is by the word of mouth. So like I said, please make sure you share these. Please make sure you tell your friends. If you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you listen to this in post and you're listening to us on any one of those podcast platforms, courtesy of the homies over at Blue Wire, like I said, make sure you leave us a review, whether that's on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, all them bitches. We are there. Kathy, Happy New Year. Cheers to you. We appreciate you.
Happy
Like
New
I
Year,
said,
Kathy.
I got some shirts coming your way. You've hooked us up multiple times with those twisted tumblers. If you haven't already done so, make sure you get one. You know, Alex, Kathy is local to you out there in Florida. You know, you need to get you one of those twisted tumblers.
Look at that boy.
You know,
Look at that
support those who support the show. And hey, you're local to her. So, like I said, I don't know, man. That's pretty much as good a way as any to cap 2021. Corey, I'll probably be seeing you tomorrow. I will be mailing some shirts out tomorrow from the post office and all that good shit. Like I said, onward and upward from here. 2022, hopefully you're going to be seeing some new things here. We're going to be looking to maybe bring some sponsors back to the show. We're going to be hitting a bunch of different things. I've already got the time off on the vacation board. I will be in Austin, Texas for Wrestle Fucking Mania. So, like I said, if you are in the area and feeling froggy, make sure you come find your boys from Knockouts and 3 Counts. Also, I'm trying to make my way out to Vegas for Double or Nothing. For like I say, we're going to be in a lot of places come 2022. We brought on new hosts this year. J-Bone, we appreciate you joining the crew and all that good stuff.
Appreciate you having me, man. It's been great.
Man, like I said, only more to come from here. Like I said,
it's been a huge help for sure, J-Bone. And also shout out, I forgot to include him in our wrestling show yesterday. Shout out Priest for all his help with
hell yeah. Shout out to the Legacy, Matthew Priest.
Legacy, yeah.
Shout out to the Legacy, Matthew Priest. Priest, if you check this out, like I said, man, we'll have to have you come back on here and talk some shit. Hey, maybe I need to get one of them Ramblings of a Grappleman t-shirts. Check them out on all podcast platforms. Like I said, if you want one of these Knockouts and 3 Counts t-shirts, you know where to find them. Like I said, shout out to the homies from Cage Side Management. Damien shooting me a DM talking about he wants him a shirt. Like I said, I will get them out on the way. But I don't know, man. I think that's all for 2021. By the time you come back in 2022, me and Corey are going to reset up this room behind me, and this bit's going to be looking real sweet. That nice neon sign over there, going to be looking real sweet. Like I said, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so that you don't miss any of it. So until next time, in the in-between time, in the New Year's time, be safe, don't drink and drive, and hey, I'll take it back a little bit. Fuck your couch!
Happy New Year, fellas.
Happy New Year.